So today we're going to be making some plush tails. I designed these tails to be pretty much as big and plushy and cute as possible, and I wanted to show you how I made them. So first up, you'll need a few things. I have my pattern cut out in the cardboard here. Feel free to use this pattern, it's a very basic one. So first up, we've got the curve of the tail. You'll need 2 bits of fabric for this. And for the underside of the tail, you'll want a triangle. Now the trick with the triangle piece is you have to measure the curve of the tail. So I just use this piece of this USB cable, and I just take a curve, make sure it's fairly accurate, but the idea is that the curve for the tail is going to be the exact same length as the triangle, or a little bit above that, a little bit more, just to be sure. I always have a little bit of leeway with my material, but you can see if I take that and go like this, it is almost exactly the same length when it's curved in that pattern. Anyways, so I've got my fabric. I've already cut out the design for the underside. Now I'm doing something different to you guys might be doing, but this one's just because I like the plushy design tail, but I will be putting some fur on the top side. So you can see there's that piece. Now I've got some green fur over here. This stuff's just cheap stuff. It isn't like high quality stuff that you might want to use, but I'm just using the cheap stuff for budgeting reasons. You can buy this stuff on like AliExpress and a few places. It varies in quality and how long the fur is and everything. So this stuff's pretty nice, I think, for the most part. For just tails, I'm going to be using this. So you'll want to make sure you got yourself some tools, a pen or some sort of marker, a pair of scissors that can cut through fabric fairly easy. I like using these surgical scissors, or bandage scissors, because they'll do a good job of cutting through that stuff. Rollers or measuring device, a surface like a ruler or something to use to get a good straight edge, and some heavy objects, some old CD drives or something along those lines that you can weigh, that you can hold the material down when marking them out for cutting. So with that done, you've got the first step done to designing your tail. Okay, so now I've got my sewing machine set up and tested to make sure it is working properly. I've got my spool on. I might actually have to replace the bobbin thread if it is nearly empty. That is easy enough to do. I just go in here. Might as well use that stuff that's there. So I've just got to push that back in. This is not exactly a one-handed job though, but seems to be working fine. I'm going to use this until I run out of bobbin thread. I normally like to try and use them up. And this is this brand, not sponsored obviously, it's just a one that I picked up for a few $100. If you really want to get into fursuit making or anything else, I recommend picking up a simple sewing machine like this one. They'll set you back around $500 to $600 New Zealand. You can do the conversion for your currency in your area. So this is how far I've done on the tail on the underside. So there's 2 layers, and so how it works is the layer for the actual tail part, the pattern, is stitched on, and I make these like little pockets. I take like an object like a bottle and I push it in, and I pull this layer, top layer, over it taut, but the underside layer is curved over the bottle, so it gives it that shape. And all I have to do is fill each pocket with a bit of stuffing, and then stitch across, and then repeat until the pattern is done, which I'm almost done. I've got 2 more sections to do, and then I'm done with this part. Then I'll cut out the fur and begin stitching that and working on that. See you back when I'm ready to do the next part. So this part is done, the fur, after cutting it out. It is now the right shape. So it is currently flipped inside out, so the backing facing out on both sides. But I have to obviously, once it is flipped inside out, I've got to make sure to leave a bit of a hole or a gap at the end so that things will properly flip inside out, so that all the stitching, all these seams will be on the inside, and it will leave a nice clean, soft, fluffy tail on the outside without all the seams being visible like this one. This will also make things a little bit more stronger, and it will also give the tail its final shape. So I've got to get to work stitching. Don't know how long this will take, and hopefully in the end of things, see a soft, cushiony tail, with a nice big poofy underside and very fluffy top come from this. So let's see what happens. So now I've stitched the whole thing together. It's inside out, of course. Now I left a bit of a hole at the front. That's kind of important for allowing it to flip around properly. That'll be stitched up after I've done the flip. So you can't take it like a big sock, and you just kind of go like this. And slowly, just going to smush it through itself, and it's going. Sometimes it does need a little encouragement for it to work properly, but it is coming. That hole just allows me to kind of pull it through itself in a way, but that will be stitched up either by hand or by means of a sewing machine. But there we go. Might just run that over with a sewing machine a couple times, and you see how some of the fur is stuck on itself? Just take a comb and there we go. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over that with the sewing machine a couple times, and that will reinforce that join. Obviously it is looking pretty good. So I'll be right back up to sewing it, and then I'll stuff. Okay, now I've got it stitched at the end. Let's stuff it. I've got a large bag of stuffing right here. I get these in like big, like 2 or 3 kilo bags. I can't remember exactly how much it is, but they're pretty decent for price. Yeah, I will say working with this fur is unimaginably difficult. For those that want to get into making fursuit stuff, be prepared for challenges. I'm doing this because I wanted to do something different. I'll be showing the other one I made that didn't use fur, and now this minky stuff, I just get this on AliExpress. It's really short and has a nice fuzzy a very nice fuzzy feel to it, so it's quite nice, and it's a lot more easy to keep clean and all that, I believe. But yeah, and it's going in there really nicely and quite easily. You just grab small handfuls and just pack it on in there. It's going in quite nicely. Might be a little bit uneven in some places where I stitched it, so things might be a little bit crooked, just because I didn't do certain things quite right, but oh well. It's starting to look quite nice. Oops, I dropped something. But yeah, I might trim some of the fur around the edges here a little bit, but overall I don't mind it the way it's hanging at the moment. It's kind of, might trim this back just a tad along the edges. But I'll keep giving it a little bit more of a packing in there, so that's nice and firm. I like my tails to be fairly plush, with a fair bit of firmness to them. There we go. But yeah, you just pack it in there. Yeah. So, so why I went with this design was I wanted something a little bit more plush looking, by making the sections much more higher, and it gives it a bit more of that curved pattern. Now I had to actually cut the sections short because this was quite shorter, so I had a bit of leeway there, with one of the sections having to be removed, unfortunately. But oh well. So I'm probably going to do is I'm just going to go along with the sewing machine. I'm just going to sew this up and around onto there, and it's just going to continue into a nice kind of piece where I can able to attach a belt loop onto. I want to try and keep the belt loop up high so that this part will push against your body and will keep the tail facing outways instead of down like this. So it will want to naturally sit outways and look nice. So I'm going to pack a bit more in there because it's still a bit loose. I want it to be fairly firm, so that it holds its shape. Okay. This may not be the bestest way of doing it, but it will work. As I'm not that good with hand stitching, I try to avoid hand stitching for myself because it's difficult. Yeah. Well, that's what I dropped. A whole bunch of pins that would not have been pleasant to my foot. Make sure to be very wary of when you're using sewing needles and other things, that you don't drop them and forget that you drop them. Otherwise, it might not be good for your feet or for anything else that moves around on the floor. Yeah. Okay. That is packed enough. That is stuffed. Try and maneuver certain things around a bit, but I think overall, I think that looks pretty good. So it's got that nice plushy look. It's got that nice fluffy top. I could have added a piece of red fabric down here, but I don't have any. I will be buying some for a larger tail down the line. Yeah, but this one honestly is just going to be a little short tail, and yeah, cool. So I'm going to go and make a little wee belt loop using some of this material, fold it over, and yeah, let's take a look. So it's completed. Definitely an okay little tail. I think it does need a little bit of more work with these sorts of tails. And yeah, I will be making a bigger tail. It's just obviously, yeah, it works. It looks good. Hope you enjoyed today's video, and